Hello and welcome back to the channel. I just wanted to take a second there to look at my new intro. I do absolutely love it and I hope you guys do too. But we are here with my first ever spoiler-free review of a movie. I've never had to do anything like this before, so this is quite a new experience for me. Hopefully it goes well. Obviously we've now officially had the release of The Secrets of Dumbledore and I managed to see it earlier on this afternoon and it was actually very good and I'm very pleased to say that. But we are going to be doing a review. I'm going to break down a few specific details of the movie in this review, but obviously I will avoid spoilers completely. So if anybody hasn't seen it, you can still watch this video, and then in a week's time we'll be looking at a full spoiler review where I go into all the details and all the things that I noticed during my watching of the film. As always, if you do like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. We put out lots of Wizarding World content, and also don't forget to give this video a like. If you do like anything Secrets of Dumbledore related, then please check out some of my trailer breakdowns and you can see how much I actually got right from this movie. So I'm going to break this review down into a few sections, and it's going to be starting off from the positives and then working its way into some of the negatives for me personally. And I'm going to start off with the first section being the characters. We're then going to look at the fantastic beasts within this movie. We'll then look at the magic that we see in the movie, and then we'll finally get on to the story elements and some of the elements I didn't quite like around those things. So let's talk about the characters in this movie, and we're addressing the elephant in the room, and that is of course Mads Mikkelsen taking over the role from Johnny Depp. And whatever your thoughts are on the controversies around that, I can say safely that Mads Mikkelsen is brilliant in this role, and I would go as far to say, in my opinion, he is Grindelwald to me. He is very charismatic and he brings a new sinister side to him that Johnny Depp didn't quite portray in the original movies. Every time he was on screen, he controlled that scene and he was very charismatic when he did it. That is exactly what the character of Grindelwald is supposed to be. He is supposed to be that charismatic person that can convince most of the Wizarding World to follow his cause, and he just had that screen presence perfectly. So moving through some of the other characters, Newt is exactly the same as he is in the rest of these films, and he is absolutely lovable and brilliant, and he just is played to perfection throughout this film. Aberforth is a very interesting character, and we had a lot of elements to his character in this film, and it's nice to see some of his backstory explaining why he is the way he is when we know him in the Harry Potter series. He is played so well that I actually want to see more of him, and that is a great compliment to the acting and the writing for his character. In this film, Dumbledore's character does get more fleshed out, and there isn't really much more I can say about his character without going into spoiler territory, but we do see a lot more of him in this film, and we see his power level, and it is really nice to start getting some of this information that we got snippets of through Rita Skeeter in the stories and just seeing how it plays out in these movies, and it is really nice to start seeing that. One of my favourite characters is Jacob, and he is fantastic in this film. He is such a great character throughout the whole series, but he has been played as comic relief previous to this, and I think his character's got a lot more depth in this movie, and I really like to see the other sides of Jacob, not just the comic values and him being surprised by everything. He's now starting to accept the Wizarding World and be part of it himself, and it's nice to see that his understanding of what's going on around him is growing, and he's starting to become more of a main player in the storylines. Another character that gets a larger role is Bunty, and she was also brilliant in this movie. Again, I don't want to go into too much about her character because there's some spoilery things around it, but we do get to see a lot of her. The only downside is they don't really flesh out the character for me enough. We don't see much more of why she is the way she is. And I was saving the best till last when it comes to characters, and I want to talk about Lally, and she is absolutely fantastic. She is intelligent, she is funny, she is powerful, and she is one of those characters that we haven't really had in this franchise. You've got Tina, who is very powerful and very intelligent, but she's sort of played as this shy, reclusive character. We've then also got Queenie in this franchise, and she's portrayed as more of a sort of ditzy, damsel in distress type character. But we haven't really had that Hermione character in this franchise. There's not been the one female character that you can actually look at and see being the role model for young girls watching these films, and I think Lally fills that role perfectly, and I just love her character. So as we move on to the next section of this film review, we are going to look at the Fanatastic Beast within this series. And we actually get less of them in this film than we do in some of the others, but they are a more pivotal role in the actual wider story of this movie, so it makes up for it in that sense. We obviously have the returning favourites of a Pickett and a Teddy, and they are absolutely brilliant in this film. They play off each other really well, and they do have some really fun scenes together. The main new creature that we see in this film is the Chinin, and it has such a vital role in the whole movie that I can't talk too much about it. However, the creature itself is so beautiful, and I think it is one of my favourite creatures they portrayed in any of the Wizarding World films or games, and it is just a stunning creature to look at. And another scene that we do get with lots of creatures in is the Manticore scene, and I won't go into it too much, but the Manticores are brilliant, and the scene itself is hilarious and also terrifying at the same time. It is brilliant. Next section that we're going to talk about is going to be the magic in this film, and I can say without a shadow of a doubt this is the best magic that has ever been put on the screen through the Wizarding World. There is so many scenes in this that my jaw just dropped while I was watching it, and I know obviously as time goes on graphics and animation skills are getting better and better, and the hardware that we use in those types of things is getting better and better, but I also think that the way these were shot and the way that magic was used in these films is just better than they've ever been used in any single Wizarding World film so far. There's a couple of scenes in this movie that felt like they were pulled straight out of an Avengers one-shot fight scene, and they just looked glorious on this film. And some of the magic that we see in this movie is magic we've seen in the past, but just not used in the ways that you see in this film, and the way they look is just better than what we've seen them look like in the past. And I can honestly say without a shadow of doubt this is the best magical movie for magic itself. And now moving on to the final section of this spoiler-free review, and that is the storyline itself. Obviously I'm not going to go into too much details about it because that would be very spoiler heavy, but I can say that the story in this film was better than it was in the Crimes of Grindelwald, and if anything it did make the story of Crimes of Grindelwald better. It did have some drawbacks, and don't get me wrong, it wasn't perfect. There is one main story plot in particular that I just felt was not done very well and could have been done a lot better. It just seemed to be a bit phoned in, and they didn't really have a conclusive outcome for it and why it happened, and it did annoy me a little bit. But other than that, the storyline was pretty good. I think there is an issue that it's got similar to the Crimes of Grindelwald, where the story was a bit all over the place, and sometimes at points it was a little bit hard to follow. But they did explain reasons for this in the film, which does kind of make up for it. Some of the questions that we had from the last two films were actually answered in this film, so that was really nice to get some sort of closure. However, they did end up asking a lot more questions that I want answered now as well. So to sum it up, this movie is actually very, very good, but it is by no means perfect. I think the issue we've got is we were so spoiled having the Harry Potter books with so much context in, being translated into films and covering the majority of what we wanted. I think now, where we don't have such long books for background context to the storyline, it is difficult for them to squeeze so much information into a relatively short amount of time of one movie, that they are struggling to fit in as many story elements as they'd like to. But they are getting better and better with it as the series goes on, and this actually has given me great hope for the series moving on as a whole, and hopefully it's going to keep moving in the right direction and allow us to have a full conclusion that we are all very, very happy with. So for this film and every upcoming release that we're going to be getting, I will be giving them a rating on my channel. I'll be giving them a rating during the spoiler-free review and also during a spoiler review, because I would imagine they might change as I dive deeper into these stories and the secrets that I find. So, after my initial viewing of this film, I am still on a high, having only just watched it, came home and started recording this straight away. I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. I think it is a really, really strong film. It is my favourite out of the Fanatastic Beast franchise. However, there is still some flaws to this movie that does knock a couple of points off that I would like to see rectified and hopefully bettered in the later films that we're going to get in this franchise. So let me know in the comments below what you thought of the movie. Please avoid spoilers. I will be deleting any spoiler related comments in the chat before next weekend when I post my spoiler review. I have put a community message out. I hope you appreciate why I'm doing this. I don't want to ruin the film for other people. If you did want to talk about it, I have got a Discord server that is now up and running. I have got a section in there called Spoiler Chat. So if you want to get involved and talk about this freely, then please join me in the Discord, and the link will be on my channel homepage. So there you have it. That was my spoiler-free review of The Secrets of Dumbledore. This video was a bit of a learning curve for me. It's nothing I've ever considered doing before, so I do hope that you really enjoyed it. I loved making it for you. But that is it for this video, and I do look forward to seeing you in the next one. And until then, mischief managed.